I'm Scott,
I'm TJ.
and this is a review special at-home remote edition. On today's episode, we'll be reviewing Do Revenge. Do Revenge stars Maya Hawke and what's her name?
Camila
I have the wrong
Mendes.
IMDb up.
I think Camila Mendes.
Yes, as Drea and Eleanor. So this is a new Netflix movie. It's a teen dark comedy thing. I don't know. What do you think about this movie, TJ? Would you give this a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
I'd give it. It has redeemable moments, but mostly a thumbs down. I mean, to me, it's trying to be Mean Girls 2022 and just kind of fails at it. But it has some good moments.
This will be interesting because I've never seen Mean Girls, but I could tell right away that this was trying to be Mean Girls. So it's interesting that I could glean that without having even seen it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. So I'm kind of a thumb today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
not a full thumbs down.
I mean, honestly, there's ways this movie could have been more on the upside than downside for me.
Yeah. But if that's kind of our thumbs up, thumbs down. We're going to tell you more about what we thought. But I want to say right away, this is a very heavy spoiler skull review. So, even at home, we have spoiler skull. So, if you want to tune out now, like and subscribe, ring the bell, do all the stuff. If you haven't seen this movie and you don't want to be spoiled. But if you do want to be spoiled and you want to hear what we think more in depth than thumbs up or thumbs meh or thumbs down, then stay tuned. Because there's a lot of twists and turns in this movie, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, this movie actually has not necessarily to its benefit, but a lot more going on in it than I realized.
Yes. Well, the interesting thing about this movie, so the protagonist, and I'm saying that with big air quotes this week, is what is her name? I already forgot her name.
Drea.
Camila Mendes.
Drea.
Her name is Drea in the film. Camila Mendes from Riverdale. I say protagonist with air quotes because this girl sucks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely absolutely part of it. Is that she's not. I mean, she pulls up to the party, and the very first shot of the movie, her license plate says "bad bitch" or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a character that at any point they ever really make you sympathize with. Like, I think there's a quick throwaway dialogue that's like, "My mom's a nurse. I'm not rich," because everyone in this movie is like fabulously rich.
Right.
So it's like, even if you're like, she's obviously doing fine. Like, she's not doing badly, but she's not like.
The problem is, instead of feeling like I want to root for her, I understood why I was supposed to root for her. But I didn't actually root for her. I just went, oh, they just said the thing that's supposed to make me go, yeah, go team.
Well,
but
they tell you.
They do. The other thing it does, though, is the moment you're really supposed to empathize with her, and I do empathize for this, is her sex tape gets leaked. She films a tape for her boyfriend, and it's kind of unclear. I assume he actually did leak it. Did they ever fully admit it? I can't remember.
He does. He admits it at the very end of the movie.
This is Mean Girls meets Euphoria at a private school in 2022. That's what this movie is.
Absolutely. And it's these kids. I mean, it takes place in like Miami or something.
I could never tell.
Sometimes,
it is Miami. You're right. They make a mention there on the beach. They're like, how's the Miami waves?
Yeah, they do. At some point, they do mention it, and they do some like pan overs of like the I-4 and stuff. It's some landmarks, but it's like they're doing like ketamine and cocaine and like very casually.
Hey, you don't want none of this Special K? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they're all 26-year-old, 25, 20. Right. I mean, like, I think Maya Hawke is like probably the youngest one in this movie. She's like 20 or something.
Say, like,
but
20,
they're all
22
like
or something, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all
yeah,
old
they're
enough
all
to play these characters and play down. That's how, it's better than having people that look way too young doing these things, in my opinion.
But it's like, why not just make it college?
It felt like it wanted to be college. They even they put it at a boarding school. The headmistress should have been a dean. Like it just
right.
Absolutely.
The headmistress. Wait, was it? It wasn't at all. It was a. Was it a boarding school or was it? I was unclear
never sure
on what kind of.
I was never sure if it was just a fancy private school or a boarding school. You don't know.
I mean, like there's a part where they're like sitting in bleachers, and it's like it's like a weird Art Deco. It doesn't look like they had access to some building that's not a school. That's what it felt like.
Absolutely. I mean, Scott, you spent some time in Florida. Is this what high schools look like in Florida, to your knowledge?
Actually, it felt like Full Sail University, where I went to undergrad, which is like an art films college, but it's like weird. Like it didn't feel like a high school.
No, it was way too regal
at all,
and just grand to feel like a high school.
But yeah, so the story here, outside of girl having sex tape leaked, that's kind of which, first of all, it's obvious that he leaked it. I did question this at first too, because she comes up to confronts her boyfriend Max, who is in Euphoria, and he's like, "No, I'm on the phone with my lawyer right now. It got leaked. Like I don't know what happened." But then I thought about it later, and it's like it's the next day. Like, who hacked his phone that night? Like, within 8 hours. They hacked his phone,
and they're like, "What are the odds? It just came through an hour ago."
It's coming in right now. She's uploading the sex tape. Like, it's so obvious that.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't really thought about the timeline of it all, but absolutely.
So it's a weird. The timeline is strange in this movie, but it starts in the spring and it ends in the spring, so it's a full year, I believe. This movie takes place over, right?
It doesn't feel like a full year to me. Did it feel like a full year to you? Because it just felt like randomly they were like, "It's spring, it's winter," and you're just like, "Okay."
Well, because it's Florida, so there's no seasons. It's just the same. It looks the same all the time.
They could have they could have had no title cards and just made me think it took place over like 3 months, and that would have been fine. Like, if anything, the title cards made me think they're still obsessing over this. Like this is still going on. This is still happening. It felt too long.
So the sex tape is like the inciting incident, and then the girl Drea goes to tennis camp, which she works at
tennis camp.
She works at tennis camp, and then Maya Hawke is attending tennis camp. It's unclear. The tennis camp and the school are almost indistinguishable.
Yes.
Like visually.
100%. And like to the point where when they're at the tennis camp, some girl from the high school goes, "So embarrassing. She works at the tennis camp we go to." And it's like, well, is that actually embarrassing? She has a job. She's a hard worker. That's what's embarrassing about it. It's just like, I get it. It's petty. It's meant to be dumb high school drama, but it just blends that school and like life combo.
Is that why? Is that Sophie Turner from Game of? Is that the British girl that makes fun?
I couldn't tell. I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but I was like, you feel like you're on Game of Thrones and possibly married.
Well, she is. That is. She is from Game of Thrones, but that was the girl that made fun of her, the British girl.
Yeah. That they plant the cocaine in her room.
Is that?
And then later when you
is that what? Is that why she planted cocaine in her room? Because she made fun of her about working there?
Yeah, I mean, Scott, have you never been picked on and then planted drugs on someone?
See, that's the problem with this movie, is they set this girl up to be this victim. I'm sorry, but getting a girl thrown out for cocaine addiction is not equal to making fun of her for having a job.
And then to make things worse, later you get, which I appreciate, you get a callback to this character. She meets her in like a rehab detention place for like rich kids that have gotten expelled from the school.
She has a real cocaine addiction.
And she's like, I've developed a real coke problem. And you're just like, is that a joke? Am I supposed to laugh at this? Like, she ruined her life.
They play it off like a joke.
Yeah, she ruined her life.
That's the thing, is this character ruined her life. And so that's when you're introduced to the Maya Hawke character, who becomes her friend, who she tells her this whole story about how she was bullied by a girl at camp or where? What's the backstory here? I was unclear.
It was camp. I became clear as the story.
Okay.
About 10 minutes before it ended, I realized it was at camp.
But not tennis camp?
I think it was tennis camp.
Because she had a whole... Later they talk about how she enrolled in that tennis camp specific... Anyway, so
Yeah, I don't know.
basically Maya Hawke was outed as being a lesbian by some girl, and she says that it made her a social pariah. So that's her insight. That's her sex tape being leaked, essentially, right? So they both have bullies that screwed them over, and now they want revenge. So that's the do revenge, is they're going to do revenge on each other's bullies. So they're going to flip-flop so nobody knows who did it.
Right.
We should team up and do each other's revenge. Don't you want to make her pay?
I don't want to make her pay. I want to burn her to the ground.
Whoa.
The guy that leaked the sex tape deserves everything that he has coming.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
The girl, it's unclear. It seems like there's something more going on with the girl who fucked over Maya Hawke. I keep wanting to call her Maya Rudolph.
I get that. Yeah.
And you kind of like that girl. I don't know. Like I like you like
The girl that
movie
runs the
makes you
farm.
Like,
I think her name's Carla. Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
And you like all of the girls that, or all the people. The movie makes you like all the people that you're supposed to hate.
Right.
And the whole movie, I'm hating the main girl, Drea, more and more and more. She just seems so petty and, like, narcissistic. And I don't know. I'm like, something's not clicking for me.
You don't like anti-heroes?
Is she an anti-hero? Is that what we're calling her?
I think that's the conversation we need to have, Scott. Is Drea an anti-hero or just a terrible human being that we just
I think
follow?
she's just a terrible human being.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think she's just a bad person.
I agree. I think she's just a bad person. I get it. She works hard, but like, here's my problem with it. When she gets kicked out of Yale, once we know it's spring or whatever, and the headmaster calls her back in or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, you didn't get the grades to go to Yale. You really been distracted all year."
It's her fault.
It's absolutely her fault.
Yes.
Like,
She's
absolutely.
right.
This
She's
is
been
on
distracted. It has nothing to do with the sex tape.
No.
I get, like, if they had pivoted the movie to be like, oh, they saw your sex tape and so you're not getting into Yale, then we'd feel even worse. If they really that's the problem. That's why I was like, even trying to be like, she's in the beginning when I'm like, she's not completely not at fault. I'm like, she's already, they set her up to be this like queen bee. I'm gonna fuck over everybody. She was like making fun of somebody else at the party. Like she's just set up as like an instigator. Yeah. So it's like, I never feel bad. It's like, it's almost like she has it coming. Almost. She doesn't. Nobody has that coming, but they set it up that way that it's like, you don't really feel bad that this happened to her. I never really feel that bad for her.
I feel like this movie is trying to do a thing where they tell you, like, if you become obsessed with revenge, like, everything else in your life falls aside. It becomes this blind thing of you're trying to get your due justice off due revenge.
Right.
And, like, because of that, you get blindsided with the rest of your life. I get the point they're trying to make, but if you're trying to make that point, instead of just flashing through and being like, it's been a whole school year of antics, show us moments where she's in class and everyone else is taking notes and she's drawing schemes. Like, there was none of that stuff to the point where when she got that letter about not getting into Yale, I forgot about that part of the story.
I'm fine with that because that's been the focus of the movie. So to me, that was just a realistic, like, yeah, when would she be in school? She's fucking off and doing all these elaborate
but
gaslighting pranks.
Give me hints.
So it's like, obviously she doesn't have time for that. But that, what for me, I didn't, that was kind of a nice bombshell that it's like, oh yeah, by the way, the movie is acknowledging the real life consequences of what she's doing. And you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, for me, that wasn't the problem. For me, the problem was, okay, so Maya Hawke kind of sets up the whole thing that you just said, that like, I'm going to devote my whole life to burning this bitch to the ground.
Right.
That's her direct quote. And this is your spoiler skull moment. Spoiler skull. This is our big spoiler moment. Around the end of the second act, you find out that Maya Hawke has been getting revenge on Drea the entire time. Drea, the person that I've been hating this entire movie, rightfully so, was the one that outed her for being a lesbian and made her a social pariah. And Maya Hawke has been the one that's been crafting this elaborate scheme to gaslight and get back at this girl by pretending to be her friend and get her... And also fucking over somebody else who had nothing to do with this entire thing.
Yeah, who was her ex, and apparently treated her very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they make
make the Maya Hawke character completely... But it's like they're trying to make her out to be this evil, like, psycho character. But I was in that moment like, no, she's right to be doing this. Yes, go! Like,
they had a moment where the director, like, went up to not Maya Rudolph. Now you got me doing it. Went up to Maya Hawke and was like, "You've seen American Psycho, right? From now on,
yes.
You're Christian
Bale.
Bale.
Yeah, you're Patrick Bateman.
You're Patrick Bateman. 100%.
The whole album has a clear, crisp sound and a new sheen of consummate professionalism that really gives the songs a big boost.
And, like, I like that twist, but the problem I have with the movie is after they take that twist, it just continues for a little too long.
Yeah.
And, like,
well,
she gets hit by a car.
Then they have to...
Like, can we just talk about this real quick? Maya hits her with a car. Yeah. And then the last scene of the movie is them being like, "Oh, we're friends driving in this car singing this song. Isn't it fun to be carefree?" What?
Well, that's the problem, is they should have had the turn where one girl who's obsessed with revenge is now actually in the middle of a scheme of somebody that's more obsessed with revenge because they're both narcissistic psychos. Right. But instead, the movie can't just stop there, which would have been brilliant. It has to take it a step further and be like, no, actually... Drea was right all along, and we should vindicate her, and we need to... And it's like, no, we don't need to... It could have... The Max needed to get justice.
Yes.
That's good. I'm glad that he gets justice in the end, but it's at the expense of the movie giving the two psychopaths also a win. Well, and it's like, none of these people deserve to... Everyone deserves to lose in this movie.
Yeah, and honestly, like... I'm not out of the era where characters can be bad and just have bad things happen to them. Like, if this was written by, like, Megan Gaz from Always Sunny, could you imagine how, like, great it would be when everyone was a terrible person and terrible things happened to them at the end? You know, like...
Because that's what they deserve. Nobody deserved... The only person that deserves justice in this movie is the person that was growing shrooms in the shed. And they play that off by like, oh, well, she was breaking the law, so
right.
And it's like, really?
So she was breaking the law by growing weed and shrooms, but
they're all doing ketamine.
But you're all doing ketamine, and you drugged your entire senior class. But just growing them is more illegal than
oh my god,
shrooming an entire class of people.
Though that was a hilarious twist at the end when they're both also on shrooms. I thought that was fun.
I thought that was fun. It was cute. This movie is like a ton of really what I would consider just cute moments where I'm like...
It's a lot of cute moments, yeah.
Brings a smile to my face, but like you see it coming from a mile away. Like as soon as they were in that two shot from the window, I was like, oh, they're both going to say they're on shrooms. And, you know, it just happens.
And they're cute moments, but they're undercut by... absolute unhinged psycho behavior, like we're saying. So it's like it's like this movie is so problematic because it's like I don't know how much it's encouraging this and how much it's commenting on it. It's really hard to say because this movie is very much like pandering buzzwords, pandering buzzwords. Like that's all this movie is just like, oh, the patriarchy, oh this, oh that, girl boss, that. It's just like it's like a Zoomer Urban Dictionary come to life into this horrible monster. It's a little obnoxious,
yeah,
honestly.
I mean, while we're speaking of pandering, who are they pandering to with this soundtrack? The soundtrack is everywhere. It's like...
It really does hit all the demographics.
Because, like, yeah, you'll literally be listening to Billie Eilish, and then the next song is straight out of Jimmy Neutron. And it's like, we're the kids in America, whoa!
But then after that, it does, like, Flagpole Sitter, which is, like, a Gen X song, and it's like, who is this movie for?
Yeah, I mean, there's times I'm like, I can't tell if this movie was written in the 90s about the 90s, and then just put aside. And then they just dusted it off in some merger with Netflix, and they're like... wow, let's make this.
We can Mad Libs this into a new movie.
Right, and that's honestly, Scott, this would explain why both the characters in this movie that takes place in 2022 and are high schoolers have seen Fatal Attraction.
Yeah.
Have you seen Fatal Attraction?
Like,
I haven't seen Fatal Attraction.
I've seen Fatal Attraction, but like barely. You know what I mean? It's not like a movie I'm that familiar with.
I would never be able to reference it like that. Like,
You're giving off some serious Glenn Close and Fatal Attraction energy.
Glenergy.
and Scott, here's my real question. Who's crazier based on this movie? Maya Hawke's character or Nathan Fielder? Because this is practically the rehearsal with revenge.
So we started going on daily walks, just to chat about life. But I was actually using these casual strolls to covertly implant every single trivia answer into Core's brain without him knowing.
With Drea on board. You know, like it's straight up like it's Maya for you, pretty much.
This really is like the rehearsal. This really
like
is
the levels
like
of
a Nathan
fury that
Fielder
she's pulling
level.
off.
I mean, it's like how many. She got her parents involved on this. Did she transfer to a different school? Is that part of it? Like she got a nose job. I don't know if that was part of the scheme or if that was just part of the feeling bad about the past.
Well, it kind of feels like, at least my take from it was that Maya Hawke's character had moved on from that moment in her life by changing her name and getting the nose job and just being like, I'm a new person now. And then she saw the news and the article about the sex tape leak, and like she was in that big school newspaper about how she was going to be the big senior girl. And so like she saw that stuff and then she was like, nope, I'm back on this revenge. And then from that moment, this plan kind of started.
So then she's like, oh, she got over. Let me her over more.
You know what's great? Kick them while they're down.
I mean, like it just makes Maya Hawke seem even more suspect and crazy, and it's like that's why I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that's fine to go to that level, but then it bums me out that it reels it back in at the end, and it's like no, they're friends, and this is all okay. It's like dude, I guess they're made for each other because they're both unhinged fucking sociopaths, but at the same time, like,
but like, what if
really?
this turned into like a slasher in the last like 20 minutes, and it was like a horror movie or something? Like, I don't know. There's just like, I'm with you. They reeled back too much. I don't need them to go that far, but
it felt like it was going in that direction at some point. Like Maya Hawke started like she was like stalking her. It felt like, and she kept like she was always in the background.
Hit her
like,
with her car.
Giving her these. She hit her with her car. Yeah, I mean like it did. I mean like it did turn into Fatal Attraction. I guess that's kind of the joke. Is like they were fatally. I don't know. Like it's like that movie didn't end with them back together again, and maybe that's supposed to be the joke.
It's like the anti-Thelma and Louise.
There is something we didn't talk about, that this is another thing that the movie, it makes me question, like, what does this movie feel about society? What's its point of view when it leaks that Max has been a girl from every clique at school, and they spin it to be like, oh, they're just in an open relationship, they're just polyamorous, like, what are you're just like behind the times, man. And it's like they're progress shaming the rest of the school. They're progress shaming. But that's
is that a term? Did we just coin that as a term? I've never heard that before, but that's exactly what this is. It's progress shaming. Oh, you're not that progressive?
Right. But that's what this movie, the whole movie is like playing with that, of playing with like these progressive ideas and then like throwing them back in your face to be like, well, but it's the bullies that are using it against them. So is this saying that the author is pro-monogamy? I don't understand.
Right.
I'm so confused.
Once again, where's the ideology?
Teenage girls. We're psychopaths.
She framed me!
And I think that's a great time to bring us to final thoughts. So, TJ, I'm going to give it to you first this time. Give us final thoughts on Due Revenge.
All right, so this is Due Revenge, and they're looking for their due process because they're due some justice. That's the whole movie. It doesn't pan out. We've talked about it a lot of decent moments. I love the scene when they're all on shrooms. There's some really funny... Honestly, something that needs to get shouted out, actually, the cinematography is very funny. When I watch comedies, I'm often upset by how quickly it's just like cut between two people firing jokes. And this shot in particular there's like a moment where they're imagining Max and he's like walking down the hallway with all the cool kids and people in the background just go, woo! And they put up like signs that spell out Max. And there's like a lot of really goofy background action going on. And I just wish that the story was better, because I think that if it was a little tighter, like if after the Maya Hawke twist, it had kind of wrapped up a little quicker, and like we've talked about, they didn't just backtrack the whole plot of this movie, essentially, it could have been solid. But for those reasons, it's a streaming movie. Put it on when you're bored. 2 out of 5. I give it 2. What is even in this movie? What do you I give it 2 tennis rackets from the tennis club, the iconic tennis club scene.
Nice. The iconic tennis club. Yeah, I actually didn't hate this. I thought this was relatively entertaining. It's like 2 hours long. I thought it was fun for a Netflix movie. I was very confused and baffled by a lot of what was going on. It is well shot. I think there's a lot of funny moments. I think it's intentionally funny for the most part, but I was finding myself a little confused what the intent was and what the director really thought about these issues that they were kind of bringing up and then kind of using. I think, like I said before, if they had really committed to what the ideology was, I think it would have had a lot more teeth. It would have been a lot more funny. As is, it feels like they were trying to have their cake and eat it too, by kind of making fun of stuff, but also standing by it. And it was like, where do we really stand on this? I think that it really did feel like they tried to throw everything into the mix. And yeah, I think there was a perfect wrap-up point here, like you mentioned, with that Maya Hawke twist. But unfortunately, like I said, having their cake and eating it too, they had to go back and try to redeem everybody and have this tight bow ending. And it had much too happy of an ending for what was very dark and problematic sociopath behavior throughout the whole movie. Overall, though, I did find it entertaining, and I would give it 2.5 mushrooms out of 5.
Nice. Good.
Is do revenge even like correct grammar?
Oh, I'm sorry, Schoolhouse Rock. Are you dragging my sentence structure right now?
So hey, that's Do.
So,
is it called Do Revenge?
Do Revenge. That's been Do Revenge. Check it out or don't. Let us know what you think. Be sure to like and subscribe, as always.
And we'll see you soon.
Yeah, like and subscribe. And don't do revenge on your friends. Don't be like these girls. Don't be a sociopath. Unless you don't like and subscribe and ring the bell. In which case, we're going to do revenge on you. We're going to go and we're going to implant ourselves in your tennis club. We're going to pretend to be your best friends. You're not going to recognize us because we're going to dye our hair, maybe get a nose job. We'll see what happens. And then we're going to create an elaborate ruse where we try to get you involved on doing revenge with your own friends. And it turns out we're doing it on you the whole time because you didn't like and subscribe.
The whole time.
So just like and subscribe. So like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
It'll be easier.